Sharks in the pool, that is not cool. I need the tools, take me to school. Feet first into this league, me first, that cannot be. Under the underdog, Monica G. Feeling a whole lot better suddenly. I get in with it, winning again. You're 1 and 2 in the bag, and I'm going for 3. That is the beat down. God of the best, so I keep. Now, y'all treading water for weeks. Now I'm the shark, so I eat. Now, look, I am not sorry. I understood the pump from which I started. And navigating these drafts is cathartic. So, thanks for the invite to party, yeah. Dynasty Underdog bite down. Up at the day and the night. Now, easy as flying a kite. Now, come take a look at it right now. Dynasty Underdog bite down. Up at the day and the night. Now, easy as flying a kite. Now, come take a look at it right now.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 135 of Dynasty Underdog. I'm your host, Ed Hawkins. Joining me tonight, Billy Beeman, Josh Goldberg. What's up, guys?
Chilling, man. Ready
What
for
is
another
up
one?
with you? Everything's good.
Everything's good. I'm taking the hat
This
tonight.
combine, everything's good. Thank you. Yeah. Listen, it's so funny. I'm like, I was thinking about this. I created a Twitter account, FF Fisherman, because like as I was talking about in the Discord, like avid fisherman my whole life.
Yep.
I feel like I'm always fishing for value. So that's what the part I'm playing right here. The FF Fisherman tonight. That's what I'm doing.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
Well,
This is what goes on in my head. You know, they talk about like if you have like an internal dialogue or not. This is the kind of internal dialogue that goes on through my head. Just nonsense. just nonsense.
we're not normal. It's okay.
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm certainly not. Yeah.
All right, well, let's hop into some more news and nonsense.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go.
Switch that around real quick. Geno Smith, they got a deal done there in Seattle. He's going to be with Seattle. It looks like pretty decent deal for him. I think really they have like a 1 year out on it, but he'll definitely be starting for the Seattle Seahawks next year. And first thing I gotta say is like, I'm just, happy for him. He had a pretty tough situation there with the Jets. I mean, pretty tough when your teammate breaks your own jaw. And, he was back up in Seattle for all these years, just patiently waiting. And, he did his damn thing, had a really good, probably career year, for being honest. Like, I don't expect him to repeat that kind of performance, but yeah, he got a deal. Does this make you guys feel better or worse about any of the other skill players surrounding him?
I mean, same as last year, really. To be honest, you can't feel any worse about DK or Lockett or any of those guys. But I don't know. I think I would use this more as an opportunity as a dynasty manager who rostered Geno Smith to try to move him for, top price. I think this is going to be probably peak value, either here or to the end of 2023. I think because again the deal is 3 years. And I think there's a lot of talk about the Seattle Seahawks maybe taking a quarterback early in this draft, right?
Sure.
So they could take his replacement, try to get Will Levis or an Anthony Richardson maybe, right, and develop him over the first year or so, and then have him take over the role. So I don't know how much security this brings to Geno himself. I do think that the weapons there are fine. Like they were great last year. They'll probably be a little bit better this year. Another year under their belt, together. So I just worry that he's not going to be a long-term solution for them.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to agree. Definitely not a long-term solution. I don't really think any logical person is thinking he is a long-term solution. But we saw last year he could put up numbers. He could support the people around him. Like you said, still feeds DK. I saw a mock draft right before he came on that has Seattle taking CJ Stroud at number 12. Draft him up and then sit him for 2 years.
No. I mean, I just don't know how Stroud can make it to 12. Like, I don't know how everybody saw these guys and are like, yeah, Stroud's the worst of the bunch.
I was thinking about Geno's dynasty value because I do have one share Geno. I got him off of like waivers. And it's in the in the sleeper league I'm in with Josh. And I made a trade with Josh last year before the start of the season. And he got DK. I got like Amari and Renfro. And I was going to throw in Geno as like just a throw in. And I was like, wait, I've made these mistakes before. And so I'm kind of happy I held on to him.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever started him, but yeah.
No, the trade was Cooper and Renfro for Metcalf, the 2022 third and fourth.
There you go. Yeah, I was like, oh, I'll throw in Geno too, but I didn't.
It's
All
nice.
good.
Yeah. Got away with one there.
Yeah,
QBs in the league are stacked anyway, so.
yeah. Well, I keep coming in second. Whatever. All right, next one.
Not that
Derek
bad,
Carr.
honestly.
It's okay.
Worst
I'll
problems.
probably get second again. Derrick Henry will get hurt like week 15 again.
Yeah,
Depends what team he's
they'll hold
playing
him out
for.
They'll hold him out in week 17, championship week. Just kick you right in the nuts.
That sucked, yeah. Carr gets the bag. So Carr to the Saints. He wasn't going to allow Denver or Las Vegas to trade him to the Saints, but then he ended up going to the Saints anyway. And I thought that part of it's kind of hilarious, but
well, it actually makes sense if you think about it, and we talked about it a good bit on this podcast. It might have been a couple weeks where you guys were interchanging not being here, but I was saying that I think the New Orleans Saints were still the best landing spot for Carr. He had the talks with them. They have kind of a setup for him, and he is Andy Dalton-esque, so he can it's like Andy Dalton plus. So
it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, so you get similar player there, but I think that he obviously didn't waive the trade clause because he knew that it was probable that he was going to sign there anyway, and why would he want them giving up assets when he's going to go there? Like, it doesn't make any sense for him. So it was a really smart play by Carr. I think they paid him a more money than I thought he was going to get, like more guaranteed money, just more money in general. I think it was like $150 million for over 4 years. So 160 million maybe. But yeah, it's I mean, I guess if you're an Olave guy, you got to, have high hopes there. But I don't know if this is as big of an upgrade as everybody wants to make it seem. I will say that.
Yeah. Which was a more surprising contract to you two? Derek Carr with the Saints or Danny Dimes with the Giants?
Daniel
Dimes.
Daniel Jones. Maybe he's the one who got 160. I think Derek Carr did get 150.
Yeah. Daniel Jones got the same contract that Matt Stafford got and the exact same contract that Dak Prescott got a couple years ago.
Yet Lamar can't get a guaranteed deal around $200 million.
Oh my God. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
So frustrating.
That's more about proving a point, I think, than anything.
Yeah, you can't. I don't know. That sounds like collusion to me, though. Everybody wants to be like, you can't prove it, and when you see it, I don't know, but
we all see it.
Yeah. We actually didn't have Daniel Jones on here, but we can talk about that too. Real quick, I did want to ask. So, if you roster Derek Carr and Chris Olave, and obviously this is pretty niche question, but I think it's possible that people could have these situations, right? Because people do like stacking, and it's also just possible these two players end up on your roster. But if you have Derek Carr and Chris Olave on your team, and you have this stack all of a sudden, it's gained a lot of value, right? Like people, I'm sure, are like, whoa, Olave got a real quarterback. Wow, they're invested in Derek Carr. Like, what do you think you could sell that for? And like, I feel like I have this in one league, so obviously I'm asking for myself, but I also think others do. Like, would you sell it, and what would you sell it for?
Oof, that would be tough. Just off the bat, I mean, I would want to see how they play together a little bit, but obviously that would fluctuate the value. If you're trading them both away, I think I might need 2 firsts. At least.
Definitely that. Yeah. So that's what I'm go ahead. Sorry, you're right.
I think it's if you're just doing by picks, that's 3 firsts. Like maybe 2 this year, 1 next year, whatever. What I think I try to do is, okay, if you're gonna move off of Olave, get max value for Carr in that situation. Maybe pivot from Olave to like a Drake London. So I want to get one of those young receivers. Like a Garrett Wilson, a Drake London. I want to get one of those guys back. That's fair.
Totally. And if I'm doing that, I think if I have this stack, and you could obviously do these individually too, but I'm thinking about it specifically as the 2 players. I think I'd try to upgrade to a top end quarterback, sell them both and go for a top 5 quarterback. You know what I mean? Be like, here's Derek Carr and his top receiver who you value as a top 12 dynasty wide receiver, right?
Go get Lamar.
Maybe I can go get Lamar, right? Maybe I can go get Lamar. Maybe I can go get, trying to think who else is up there. I don't know. Would you trade? No. So it has to be secure. It has to be a
would
very
you trade
secure
him?
asset.
Would you trade the 2 of them for Josh Allen?
Absolutely. 1,000,000% I would do that. So yeah, like if those are, wavering thoughts in people's mind, any of those guys, Justin Herbert, right? Like I would do it for Justin Herbert. I think
I'd be a little worried on that one, but yeah.
I think that's the kind of way you get up there. But yeah, you have to believe in the guy.
And honestly, I mean, I get it. You want to package them together to get a top tier player, but I think you could probably squeeze more value out of them selling them separately.
That's possible too. That's possible too.
All right. Yeah. Next news. Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, they both got the franchise tag. Well, Saquon Barkley too. All three of those running backs got the franchise tag. Probably just a placeholder until they get deals done, or what do you think? Or a team just like, hey, screw it, we'll just franchise this guy for $10 million and let him walk next year.
I think with the Jacobs situation, the Raiders might be having something bigger in play, and they want to preserve the cap room until they see if they can pull that off or not.
Quarterback in mind, maybe.
Quarterback in mind, maybe either Lamar. I mean, they have the assets to make it happen, or even a Packer or Rodgers. I mean,
yeah, Jimmy G maybe too if all else fails. But I don't know if Pollard's going to get anything more than the tag. I don't think. I mean, it's possible they do like a 2-year deal or something with him, but just the injury and everything, they might just want to leave it at that and handle it the year after. But with the Zeke situation, I doubt that they're going to do anything until that's resolved. I don't know what they're going to do there, whether it's restructure or get rid of him. But Saquon, you'd think they'd want to get a long-term deal done with him and free up some money. They just paid both those guys so much money, man. Like I
love it.
Yeah. I bet you do as a Cowboys fan. It's a lot of money. So you'd think that they want to probably try to get a long-term deal done with him before everything's said and done so they can at least free up some money this year. But I don't know. We'll see what happens there.
All right, next one. Javonte, health in question. Where's this coming from? So
actually, Matthew Berry had like an article come out. He was at the combine talking to a bunch of people.
Okay.
And this was in there that Javonte, his health is basically it's ranging from he could be out all of next season, which obviously I think is probably worst case scenario, but more unlikely, to he's definitely going to miss some time. Basically, there's concerns about his knee. So it also in there was talking about the Browns' backfield situation, and he kind of brought it all together, saying that there's rumors of maybe bringing Kareem Hunt over because of the concerns. So I just wanted to throw this out there. We talked a lot last offseason. I sold Javonte in a pretty big deal in a league, and I just think that his value is all up in the air. People love him, so yeah, this is actually pretty big news, I think. And yeah, I don't know if everybody saw it, but
I didn't.
For me, I'm out. I've been out. I'm out on Javonte. Out.
Yeah, I've been out for a minute on him, and I think Hunt would be a great running back for that stable.
Yeah, you're probably right there. Little Jordan Humphries. Whose is this? I haven't heard that name in a while.
I think he got signed to
Broncos or something.
Yeah, he got signed to the Broncos. He followed Sean Payton over. So it's just little wonder, really low value guy, like might be on the waivers. I don't know. Could be a thing, especially if they get rid of Cortland Sutton and it ends up being Jerry Jeudy and a bunch of guys. I don't know. He could have some short-term value.
Yeah, he's probably out there on waivers. So I like it though.
Really quick, it's not on the sheet, but talking about Broncos wide receivers, rumors are Sutton's on the block. They're trying to quietly trade him in Dynasty. What do you think his value is right now?
Not good. Not good. Yeah, you probably couldn't get a second for him, and if you could, it'd be like the end of the second. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you could throw a couple thirds at somebody, or a third and a developmental player, maybe grab him if you're interested, but he's probably a hold if you have him or something. There's not much to do there until you figure out what his situation is.
Fair. All right. This was really good. Calvin Ridley, he on the Player Tribune website, he had a whole article. Very, very good. If you haven't read it and you're not into like long form articles, I don't care. Go out there and spend the 5 minutes it takes to read his thoughts on his headspace, where he was leading up to the the gambling and the suspension and all that. So not once did he act a victim or anything like that in the whole article. Like he was just like, yeah, I messed up. And it's just really, really good. I don't know what else you want to say about it, but the article's awesome. Go look it up. Calvin Ridley, Player Tribune.
Yeah, real quick. I mean, I read it and it's so funny when I like watch sports stuff and read sports stuff like this, like I'll like get like goosebumps and like, you know, like you can like reading it, you get emotional, like you kind of really feel where he's coming from. And I think like if you are invested in Dynasty or anything like that and invested in these players, you should definitely go read this article because it really gives you a good idea of where Calvin Ridley's perspective was last year when everything went down, or the year before rather, when everything went down, how he got suspended, you know, his whole life, and just kind of understanding who he is, because again, these players are multidimensional like any human, and we like to act like everything's black and white with them, but it's not. So I think for me, it put into perspective, you know, not only where he was before, but where he is now, and kind of the kind of player that you might be getting on your team, right? So I think these kind of things are really important. And one of the quotes, first of all, that I tweeted this out earlier, but one of the quotes from it that I love, he was like, right now I feel stronger than I've ever felt, mentally and physically. On the field, I'm flying. Believe me, I'm flying. That GPS band don't lie. On my daughter's name, if I'm healthy with Trevor Lawrence, I'm giving Jacksonville a 1,400-yard season, period.
Just like makes me want to go get him. Just makes me want to go get him. Like I'm gonna go overpay for this guy. Like,
yeah, seriously, gives me chills right now. And I wouldn't overpay. I try to be really level-headed about this. I'll probably have none of them, and I wish that, you know, it sucks because I'm so risk averse. I don't have these players, so I definitely would advise not being that way and going out and getting these guys earlier. Seriously, like the Deshaun Watsons, all these guys whose value goes south, but you know is going to peak back up or has a very good chance. Like you gotta go buy him low. And I wish that I did with Ridley, because I do think that after reading that and seeing all the stuff in there and then reading that, I'm like, wow, this guy's gonna ball. Like he just is, like he's gonna ball. So it's like, man, that's a tough pill to swallow for me, but I'm excited to see what he can do this year.
No, I mean, I bought him in, I think, 2 leagues last year right after the news broke. I paid, I think, a fourth and a fifth for him.
Laughing all the way to the bank.
That's a joke. Like that is a joke just right there, man. I love that. Yeah, I saw stuff like that happen all over the place, and yeah, you wish.
Yeah, I saw him going for thirds just a couple of weeks ago. So
yeah,
wow. I think Riley got him for a really good deal that we were all kind of laughing at him for in DU1 in Dynasty Underdog Listener League 1.
Didn't he actually trade him away?
Did he?
Yeah,
maybe he.
Which
did.
Actually looked really good up until like.
Yeah. Somebody got him cheap. I forgot what it was, but I remember looking back being like, that was a good move. Yeah, I didn't know which way it went, but yeah. I'm excited to see it, man. I think he's gonna have a good year, and it's cool. You should read that article because it would definitely change your mind on his whole situation, kind of where he was, why he did what he did or got into what he got into. Is pretty understandable.
Yep. All right, the next one is a Discord question, and it's talking about if we are rebuilding, do you want to buy into Tony or Elijah Moore for a second?
I'm leaning Tony. He's supposed to be the wide receiver 1 in Kansas City next season. He showed this season with Mahomes that he could produce and be a reliable wide receiver. So for me, that's what I'm building around, because the Jets QB situation is still murky. Even if Rodgers goes there, they're not going to have instant chemistry. Who knows what you're getting with Rodgers? And yeah, I just feel Tony's a safer bet.
Yeah, I'll agree. Although, I mean, I like Elijah Moore more than Tony as a prospect, as a player. But given the reasons that you just mentioned, I think maybe Tony's maybe a safer bet there.
Yeah. It's interesting. I probably wouldn't pay a second for Moore. And I might pay a second for Tony, but I was kind of looking at a mock, and we're actually jumping into a mock at Dynasty Football Factory, and I'm noticing that the second round is pretty loaded as well. So I think that I'd like to buy them for a later second, and I don't think that's possible. I don't think you're getting Tony for a second, to be honest with you. I imagine people are going to hold your feet to the fire and try to get a first, given the Super Bowl touchdown, the outlook, and everything. So, yeah, I think Tony's value is a little too high at this point. But yeah, I guess I would pay the second because then I could turn it around if somebody was willing to sell Tony for a second. But Moore is probably a guy that you should be buying for a second. He's one of those guys that I'm risk averse to. You know what I mean? Who could I think if Aaron Rodgers goes there, it's a lot more likely that he can turn it around.
Oh yeah.
So I think in that situation, a second would be great because then you can go ahead and sell him for something greater than that, even before they play a game. So there's a little opportunity there, but my risk averseness probably keeps me from doing it.
All right, the last little bit of nonsense was a tweet. You want to take it away?
Yeah, I do. I'm trying to open it right now. Yeah. So this is Chris Miles at Chris Miles 1017, DFF Draft Director on Twitter, Dynasty Football Factory writer. Sorry, I'm looking at the tweet up here, but I thought this was pretty cool. He was just somebody was asking him a bunch of questions about hit rates for day one, day two, QB, wide receiver, running backs, and stuff like that. So I thought that I would just throw some of the numbers out there because he had it very easily digestible for us. And you can kind of notice a few things right off the bat. So let me go to the original question or the original post. So he originally posted day two and day two wide receivers and day three running backs, right? And essentially was saying, like, any day I'm taking the day two wide receivers over the day three running backs. So if you just look at it, and he's doing this by points per game as far as like elite, I think it's 16 plus points per game, and it kind of just ranges down from there. But he was saying, so 7 day two wide receivers hit elite, 8 good, and 10 usable, 36 missed, right? So 11% hit rate for the elite, 13% hit rate for the good, 16% for the usable, and miss was a 59%. So day three running backs, just go straight to the miss on these guys, 85.6% miss on day three running backs, right? So it's a 1.1% on the elite hit rate and 3.3%. There was just 1 in 3 in there of the 90 day three running backs that he has in this pool of players. So it just shows you how the drop off in running backs, like draft capital is so much more valuable than people want to let on. Day three running backs just fall off the cliff as far as hit rate goes, right? So I think this is stuff that people, they don't really think about it in this way. So I think actually just throwing the numbers out to them is helpful.
Yeah. I think just for me, kind of makes my strategy in a startup versus rookie draft a little different. In the startups, I'm going to try to grab all those cheap ass running backs that nobody wants. A bunch of backup running backs. But I think in the rookie drafts, those times you need to be hitting on the more higher hit rate, wide receivers, instead of like the guy who got the running back who's really fast, who got drafted in like the middle of the fourth. Like, just facts. They just don't really produce. So
yeah, I mean, when you look at it for day two running backs, just compared to the day two wide receivers, so looking at least the same draft capital, essentially, it gets a little bit better, like 9.3% elite hit rate, 18.6 for the good for running backs, and just looking at the miss, like 44%. So it gets significantly better, obviously, when you go to the day two. So at that point, you can maybe just like pick and choose who you want, right? It's kind of like just the same odds bet. But the last part of it, I guess that's worth mentioning is just day one. I just think it's like it's just nice to know when, like, in your head, these numbers when you're picking players, to know like the hit rates on these guys, right? So for day one quarterbacks, 38.5% on day one are elite, right? 30% good. So you have pretty much a 68% chance of having a really solid player at the QB position if they get drafted day one. That's why for me, Anthony Richardson goes day one. I don't really care about anything else. Like at that point, I have like a 70% chance that this guy is going to do something and might be super elite. So that's where my head goes to it, at least as a dynasty manager. Day one wide receivers, 24% elite and 13% good, right? And then day one running backs, 60% elite and 10% good. So almost the same as QBs. So I guess the Bijan love makes sense, right? Like if he goes day one, which he's probably going to, then he's a hit no matter what, right? It's
Pretty
just the frailty of the position that kind of loses me a bit, and the longevity of the QB. So just really good numbers to know, in my opinion, for when you go into your rookie drafts.
Oh, for sure. Now, only because you mentioned it a minute ago, do you think it's possible, I guess, that Robinson would drop to day 2? I mean, in my opinion, he's a lock for day 1.
Who? Richardson?
Bijan?
Oh, Bijan
I doubt
Robinson.
it.
Oh, no, I doubt it. But, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's always possible. We saw Jonathan Taylor. I never thought he would fall. Like, and, I know
Yeah.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire went in the first that year. But, again, like,
bringing down the numbers.
You see great players fall sometimes, and it doesn't make sense. But, yeah, in this draft specifically, and how much he stands out from the pack, and honestly just the love he's getting for how generational a talent he is, he's going to go in the first round.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's hop into some combine winners.
That was fun.
Pretty cool. I mean, it's the underwear Olympics. They're there to run and jump and, do it. They're not doing actual football stuff. We're just seeing.
For a data guy, you hate this event. It's hilarious.
Well, there's not a whole lot. It's fun to watch, but I don't know how much. I think maybe for tight ends, like maybe it matters more, but I don't have any numbers to support that.
I mean, the 3 cones and like those drills like still are pretty like they're
DK Metcalf like is still running
pretty
his
impactful. Yeah. Okay. He's an alien. Like, yeah, he kind of just beats all of the thresholds and odds. Like, it doesn't matter with him. Yeah. If we have those kind of guys, if Anthony Richardson, right, I don't care what he does throwing the ball. The guy fucking jumps out of the stadium. Like, just give me the athlete. Like, let's go. Yeah.
So Anthony Richardson, one of the biggest winners from the combine. Anthony Richardson absolutely broke the combine. I don't know if you guys follow Math Bomb on Twitter. I've been following him for years and years and years, and he had developed what he calls RAS, relative athletic score, and it kind of just basically it's your SLATIX, it's your height, weight, length, hand size, all that stuff, and like who's the biggest, baddest, 40. All that 40 time, and it kind of compiles it and it compares it to past players throughout the years, and if you're the best, most elite at all these things, you get a 10. And Anthony Richardson broke Cam Newton's longstanding record of being the best athlete at the quarterback position. So
interesting.
That's really cool. I know everyone's really excited about him. And, me and Billy have talked about this, and it's fine. We're going to argue about it. I have the 103.
We threw virtual fists in the Discord.
And it's okay. Like, I want him to succeed, but I just don't think he's going to. But he is absolutely a stud physically. Is he a good quarterback? I don't know. I don't think so. But he's really, really talented athlete.
Oh my god.
I don't know if he's a good quarterback either, and I'm not saying he is. And like I'm getting pegged as like falling in love with him. I think I'm just like more okay with just believing, and like to all like the talk about being risk averse. Like I guess with quarterbacks, like I'm just not like willing to. They're the ones that I'm willing to kind of just throw my hands in the air and say, I don't know. Like the other guys, I can at least like identify, I can analyze, I can grade. Like quarterbacks are much more difficult in my opinion. So like I actually put out on Twitter, I've resigned to just kind of going for guys with elite traits, elite athleticism, and not really like picking at the finer details. Like I know that he's not a great or a refined passer, but like from what I saw in the throwing drills, and you hear other guys like who actually know what they're talking about, or who I know what I'm talking about, but you actually think know what they're talking about, like Daniel Jeremiah and stuff, like talking about how he actually looked a lot better in the passing drills than you thought he would, right? So I think that he has a base of skills that can be developed more than he's being given credit for. He played one real year, and was terrible. I think it was a lesser. I think he had lesser of a situation than other guys who you want to compare him to. That said, it was a bad year, 55% completion percentage. I just am willing to kind of overlook that if he gets top 10 draft capital. I don't care. Like, I'm just willing to say I don't care and throw my hands in the air. I'm not like Anthony Richardson, like, he's the best he's a good quarterback. I don't think that.
Billy, did I just hear you say Anthony Richardson is going to dethrone Mahomes as number one QB?
Yes, that's
I've seen
actually
it. I've heard it. I heard the comparisons. Like, oh well, he would. Seattle Sports Radio was saying, hey, Mahomes was, he needed work coming out of college, and he did. I watched him. Was it the Red Raiders or whatever? I watched him, and he was throwing picks, and he's just yellow balls and all that stuff. But it's not the same. So you're hoping he turns into Josh Allen, but I'm not betting on it.
If you play this recording backwards, I actually say Anthony Richardson is Patrick Mahomes.
All right, that's enough.
We now have an audio clip to isolate. So.
All right, another combine winner was Deneric Prince from Tulsa, running back. Good size and absolutely killed most of the drills. One of the most athletic running backs out there. Never heard of the guy until the combine, so I guess there is some, at the very least, I get to see these guys and be like, oh, that's not somebody that was on my radar at all, so let's go look into it. And, the peripherals are there. It's like a Senior Bowl player. He's played in the college for 4 years, and he's fine, but he had a really good combine.
Yeah, he definitely had good size and athleticism. So it's one of those guys that definitely wasn't on the film review list. And you're like, all right, I'll go watch. Or
I'll go watch him.
Yeah, I'll go see what's there and if there's anything to grab at. But yeah, we'll see.
Another guy that had a really good combine was Evan Hull. We talked about Evan Hull a little bit because he's in Listener League 3. Mm-hmm. I played with him in the Safe Leagues. He's in the Discord, NW Joe. He wanted to know about Evan Hull, so we did a quick little breakdown on him. And he showed up to the combine, and he ran a 4.47. Just pretty much balled out in most of the drills. So he had a really good combine.
He had a great combine. He ran to the end zone after every single drill. Like everybody else stopped, halfway down the field or whatever, turned back around. He ran to the end zone every single time. And apparently that's something like a coach challenged him to do a long time ago in every practice. And that's how he just practices. So yeah, find it hard to believe this kid is not going to find a role in the NFL somewhere. Yeah.
5'10", 209, good sized kid.
My trade from last week looks better and better.
Yeah. If anybody wants more content on him, we have on our YouTube channel a video of film review on Evan Hull, actually.
All right, the next one is more not even like specific person, but like just the entire tight end class this year. It's looking to be a really good tight end class as far as just production, physical gifts. We might see 3 tight ends go in the first round. It's very possible. I probably won't be drafting any of them in Dynasty rookie drafts just because they don't do much for you right away. But you have guys like Zach Kuntz just destroyed the combine. Sam Laporta, Iowa. Of course, Iowa is just like tight end university. Yep. And if you get a chance to go look at his interview that he did, very well spoken. Just absolutely like, wow, this is the dude I want in my locker room. This is the dude I want on my team. And he's athletically gifted, and he's got pretty good production too. Darnell Washington, if you get a chance to watch him, dude, for me personally, came out of nowhere. Tight end, Georgia, ran a 4.6. He was going up against that, what do they call it, the sled, the pushing sled.
Oh my god!
He blocked. He's still blocking that sled. Like
he sent that thing out of the stadium, dude. The way he blocked that thing was insane.
So a guy like that is definitely capable of putting his hand in the dirt, chipping a defensive end, and doing what he has to do in the run game. But he's also so incredibly athletic that I think he has a real chance of being a dude in this league. We'll see.
I think he had the catch of the draft, of the combine.
Yeah,
it was one-handed, right? Just boom.
Yeah.
Beast. So, and then you still have guys like that have been at the top of the list that maybe didn't perform as well during the combine, but Michael Myers still looks like an absolute stud. You got to. That's where you got to like kind of take the combine with a grain of salt because this guy's good anyway. Like we've known he's good for quite a while. So I just think that this is going to shape up to be a very good replenishing of the tight end landscape. Hopefully. So it just depends on what teams want to do.
No, you're killing it. Keep it rolling, brother. Keep it rolling. You want me to
Next
go?
one?
Do you
Yes,
know about
yes.
Bryce Ford Wheaton?
Take him on.
No,
I had to look him up earlier.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have his 40 time offhand, but he had one of the faster 40s, Bryce Ford Wheaton, of the drafts. And he's just a big body guy who ran super fast, came out of nowhere. He had no production in college, so that's worrisome. And obviously, like, these guys don't usually pan out, but he could flap the draft boards because he has all those different traits. And yeah, just somebody to keep your eye on. That's pretty much it. He's definitely a winner from it, though. He had a great workout. Deuce Vaughn, like we talked about him last week. Come on.
Yes.
Like, the kid looked incredible in every single workout. Not just that, he also had a great BMI, great weight for his height. He was like 5'5", which is like ridiculous. But he weighed in at like 170 or something like that, 175, like really, really heavy for his height. So I'm wondering if he can be a guy who is a little bit of an outlier, right? Like, he athletically, like, in almost every category, he hit, the threshold or above. And he finished off, I think, the workouts for the running backs, ran it down the field in the end zone, did a backflip. Like, the kid is super athletic. And I think that he's a guy who is going to fall because of his size. And I'm going to just go ahead and take him because he's a running back and he has pass catching ability. So why not?
Yes. Very good pass catching ability. We talked about it, just last week or the week before. It's just so tiny, but he is one of the most fun players to watch, and he just smashed the combine.
Yep. Okay, another receiver, Tyler Scott, a little bit smaller guy, but he blew the 40 away as well, and I think he put people on notice. So just another guy who comes out really athletic, really fast, and he looked good in the catching drills too. So he was just a guy who I think is nobody really had them on their radar at all. Comes from Cincinnati, it's a little bit smaller school, usually not producing receivers. Obviously, they had Alec Pierce last year, but yeah, Tyler Scott, a guy with some athleticism and looked good in the combine. So he definitely pushed himself up the draft board a bit. My last one here, and I love this one, and he didn't do too many drills, but I just think with the size, like, you gotta at least pay attention. This kid, Jake Bobo, where'd he go to school? UCLA. Yeah, UCLA. 6'5". He's 24 years old. He's old as shit, but he's 6'5". This guy's enormous, and he had a couple of good sideline catches, like toe taps. Looked good in the catching drills. I don't think he ran the 40 or anything like that, but it doesn't matter. Again, he's 6'5". The guy's enormous. Like, just fourth round of rookie drafts, I'll take Jake Bobo. I'll take a flyer on him.
Yeah. I mean, to me, the last three really depend on their DC.
Of course.
Oh, sure.
Course.
Hey, I don't know if you ever go to Player Profiler, but if you look at Jake Bobo's photo, he looks like he could be related to Justin Herbert.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
He's
a big boy.
Yes. Cool.
All right.
Next topic. This is something that I think, again, NW Joe from the Discord
Great content for us, man.
Yeah, I know. I didn't really come up with anything, so my bad. But
I got a couple, I think, that are good ones.
So he wanted to know about some throw-in players whose value could grow. And this is really good. This is really just good for Dynasty if you do this often, or you could do like maybe one player a year where you're getting a guy that you see is valued as basically a throw-in or just really cheap. And if he could grow in value, if you're smart enough to sell him for, just good Dynasty strategy. So having players like this is important to our game. So,
yep. First one I got here is one that I have on like a bunch of taxi squads all over the place. Jerome Ford. I forgot where he went to school, but he's on the Cincinnati Bengals now. He's technically the third on the depth chart. But again, this Matthew Berry article had some really good nuggets in it, and he was talking a lot about this backfield and how Chubb might be on the outs, how they might be looking to move on from Chubb. And even if they don't, again, we already talked about how Kareem Hunt is definitely going to be out one way or another, whether it's Denver or somewhere else. And with that, Matthew Berry is saying that he's hearing Jerome Ford's the guy. They love him, like as the backup there. They love not like take over Nick Chubb's job, but he's a guy that they like there a lot. So he's one of those guys, again, who I think nobody's really even paying attention to, who could be a throw-in in a trade, and he could gain a ton of value between now and August, or definitely beyond.
Yeah, probably could add Dearness Johnson to that list too. Another guy there.
Sure.
Maybe they don't like him as much, but he's another guy he's done well when given a chance. When either Hunt or Chubb has been injured, Dearness Johnson's got some work there. So that is interesting. It'd be interesting to see what happens with Chubb and Hunt.
Matthew Berry could be spinning a load of BS in general, obviously.
You never know.
But no, and what I'm saying in that article, he also said that Dearness Johnson, fine, not their guy. He's like, they like Ford.
Yeah.
And so however that he came to that conclusion, that was in there. So it's just a guy who kind of like a guy I've been holding on to, and I'm like, oh, perfect, exactly what I've been looking for. So on this list. The other one I have here is Juwan Johnson, and this is another one where there was some tidbits I've seen about him just having a market this offseason because everybody's in need of a tight end. He led the Saints in targets, right? And there's not guys out. I think he also led the Saints in like maybe targets or something like that too, because Chris Olave missed some time. He would have probably been the guy, but one way or another, Juwan Johnson just like led the team in a bunch of receiving stats. So he's going to get some attention around the league. And again, guys who could grow in value, whether you believe in them or not. I think he's a guy who has no value or little to no value and could gain value based on teams looking for a guy like this.
Absolutely. Like, yeah, I think if there was like any hesitation about that, who's going to be throwing the ball there in New Orleans, after seeing what Juwan Johnson did last year, like he's got to be a guy that you should have on your radar, and you should be able to get him really cheap. So I like that one.
Yep.
Another one that I have is Myles Gaskin.
Ooh, why?
I liked what he did 2 years ago when he was given the opportunity. He produced a decent average, and I just think if he was given the opportunity, not as a main back but as a number 2, he could put up some decent numbers for you.
Yeah, that's possible. Well, it'll be interesting to see what Miami does with the backfield there.
Is he going to be on the team?
No, he's a free agent.
Oh,
okay.
That's why. Yeah, no, I'm not expecting him back with Miami at all. I'm saying if he goes to a different team.
Oh,
I mean, he's 26 years old. I guess he's young enough to like find a role. He doesn't really do it for me. But I can see where you're coming from. Just not really, not for me.
Cool.
Running back, I would like Joshua Kelly. I think he's a guy who could he's a perennial like backup guy, but I think like you can get him for like late 3rd, 4th round pick kind of deal, or just a throw in again. And good.
And I was saying, is there any hope for Isaiah Spiller?
Maybe.
Yeah,
that's why I was just going to go. Like, there's a chance that Isaiah Spiller was really high on.
He's probably more on this list than Kelly is.
Folks like us were pretty high on him, and then we saw him fall in the draft a lot further than I guess we really anticipated. So there's still something there. The talent's obviously still there. Eckler's a little bit older. So I think that is definitely one of those guys that if you're just trying to make a trade, instead of trying to get like a third throw in, why don't you go ahead and just get like an Isaiah Spiller thrown in?
Yeah, either one of those guys, honestly. Yeah, I like both of those in the backfield there because who knows how long Eckler or if he'll hold up. Yeah.
All right. It's a smaller list, but let's talk about trades and non-trades.
Yeah, this is mine. I actually had somebody hit me up say, I want Kenny Gainwell. I was like, all right. And he was like, let's figure something out, and just kind of didn't say much else. So I was like, all right, well, and I thought this was kind of part of it too that was advantageous. And I try to get ahead of this if you can, but the commissioner didn't change the sleeper league over or whatever, or didn't set the draft order. So it's still 2023 second instead of like what the actual pick is. And I know it's a high pick because I remember where he finished, and I'm just like, he probably doesn't remember, care, or know. And so I think that helped maybe, but I sent Gainwell for the 23 second and he just accepted it. Thoughts?
I like it for both sides. I'm high in Gainwell, and I think if Sanders leaves, he definitely has a chance to produce and be something. But definitely. If you weren't looking to get out of him, I think the early second is probably the best you could get.
Yeah, I like that a lot. They seem to like Gainwell a lot more towards the end of the season last year. Mm-hmm. Not entirely sure what's going to go on with Miles Sanders. I don't think Miles Sanders is very good, so it doesn't really matter. I like the trade.
Yeah. I mean, the way I think about Gainwell is he's going to have maybe a year of possibly a role to himself, and maybe that. Probably they bring another guy in. If you're lucky, it's not a guy who is going to be better than him, and he'll have, the 1A, 1B role. But I think that that's like best case scenario, to be honest with you. Like, this isn't a guy who, in my opinion, could ever lead a backfield for multiple years or really lead a backfield. So I know they gave him, 15 plus carries in a couple of games at the end of the year, but Super Bowl run, you're just, it's all on the line at this point. It doesn't matter how many carries you have, you just do the damn thing. So for me, the 23 second, looking at this class, like I actually think I'd take almost any second for Gainwell, but it being early second is just a cherry on top, in my opinion.
Cool. All right, let's finish it off with another prospect profile. I reached out and said, hey, who do you want to go talk about? And you said Tajay Spears, which is cool because we talked about Tajay Senior Bowl week because he just was out there making dudes look ridiculous with his route running and all that. So Peter Howard had updated his sheet for me, thank gosh. Got some Tajay Spears. I could watch highlights and stuff, and yeah, he looks good, but I still don't know what I'm looking for. But
at least you're honest about it.
It's different. Running backs it's hard for me. I don't know. Basically, if they get drafted high, I like them.
We talked about the numbers clearly.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I don't know. It's a lot of the work's done there for me, so I don't spend a whole lot of time on running backs. But I do want to talk about Charbonnet soon, though.
Oh yeah, we haven't done a profile on him?
Not yet.
Let's do it next week.
All right. So yeah, Tajay Spears, 5'10", 201, good sized kid, 128.8 burst score. And burst score, I believe, is some sort of calculation between broad, jump, and vertical. Peter Howard kind of laid it out. It's not a very difficult metric, but it's a player profile or metric. But that 128.8 burst score puts him towards the very top of the list out of the prospects that ran those drills. 4.5 yards after contact per attempt, career average, which is really good. 1.8 adjusted yards per team, career average, which is also really good. Puts them towards at least the top third of the class. And then a 0.5 receptions per team pass attempt, which is a good sticky metric. Looking at running backs, and that's a career average for him, which is also really good. Puts him towards the top third of the class. After seeing him at the Senior Bowl and what he did there against competition, playing in games, and then combine performance, like this is a dude that if he does get, say, third round draft cap or something like that, he's somebody I want to go after and get.
Oh, for sure. When you guys mentioned you wanted to do the profile on him, I looked him up, read some stuff, and I think third round's perfect for him. I can honestly see him going to the Packers in the third.
Yeah,
to be
third
running back there.
I think that's probably a pretty good guess. Third round.
Nice. Okay. Let me get a sip of water here, and I'll hop into the film. Okay. Yeah, Tajay Spears is fun, man. Sounds like he's pretty solid in the sheets there. So, Josh flipping me around here, man.
Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to upload the video.
No, you're good. You're good. Okay, so right off the bat, I think a lot of the clips you'll see of him, and just initially one of the things you notice from Spears, because you don't notice from a lot of guys in general, but also you don't notice from guys you usually haven't heard much of before this process, but he has really good vision. And he sees the entire field. He's able to anticipate defenders and create opportunities for himself with that vision, right? He uses his blockers really well, so he'll follow them and, burst right behind them, be able to bend right around them and the defender to get away and gain yards. He does one thing I noticed, and this is just from watching his film, like, I don't know if it matters at all really, but he has like an interesting hitch at the snap when cradling the ball. And I kind of actually think it might help his initial burst from the snap. It's almost like a cheat step in a way that kind of allows him to get, I think, some of that pop you see through the line. He has really good footwork, good change of direction, which you see in his route running, you see kind of in all the combine stuff, right? He's a really patient runner with an ability to accelerate quickly after reviewing what's ahead of him. So I love what I see out of guys, who are athletic with vision. I mean, it's really exciting. If they get the DC, you kind of, you want to jump all over these kind of guys. So just to continue on here real quick, he exhibits the ability to bend and contort around linemen and defenders to get around edges. He has a good suddenness about him. He's a technical runner with good lateral quickness, but mainly he uses high quality fundamentals, footwork, vision, etc. to impose his will on the defense. He has good power, but he does show weakness against bigger defenders. So I would say like average contact balance. He exhibits good ability to drag his feet and quickly evade. But I do think he lacks breakaway speed. So straightaway long speed, I'm not sure that's his thing. I don't think he ran the 40, so I think he might have been trying to avoid showing teams maybe he's a 4.5 guy, right? Which isn't slow. It's not slow or anything. It's fine. But I think with what the media does with this stuff nowadays and it being kind of a show, some of these guys are just better off avoiding this stuff. Their tape speaks for themselves. So at the end of the day, last thing I'll say here, they didn't use him a ton in the passing game. Like he wasn't asked to do it. And you see some drops here and there on film. But when you watch him kind of in these drills, you can really see he has a really good receiving ability. I just don't think it was utilized as much as it could have been in college. So yeah, he's a bit small, but I don't know if that's going to matter. He kind of weighed in just fine.
5'10", 201.
Yeah, 5'10", 2. I mean, but again, if he was 199, we'd all be, I don't like this guy. So he was close. Is my point. Is he's a little light. Like whether he's above 200 or not, he's a little small. So it's going to take the DC to get me there. Honestly, like everything about him is awesome. It's just, is a team going to buy in? Because I'd like to.
Who's your your player comp for him?
I don't know if there's like he's like a small. I don't really do player comps. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a guy who's not that good that also plays the way he does. Because he reminds me of like a Jamal Charles type player, but he's not that good. Like he's not that. He doesn't have that much burst. He's not that dynamic by any means. Like Jamal Charles was elite in that respect. But I think he's that kind of player. He has good vision through traffic. He has good vision between the tackles and good burst after that, good ability to evade tacklers. But I think he's more average at this stuff than he is elite at this stuff. He's definitely above average though.
Yes. That's a good way of putting it. He's fun. I really
I like him a lot. I can't like him that much. Like it's hard. You know what I mean? Like
of course.
A lot of guys look good on tape. Like you got to put it in perspective and try to be reasoned with the analysis.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
We did great. We didn't talk about anything else.
All right.
Bookmark.
Jump in our Discord.
Hop in there. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Dynasty Underdog. Follow us on Twitter at Dynasty Underdog, at Uri Dawkins, at Willie Beeman DFF, and at Josh M. Goldberg 92. And make sure you hop in the Discord.
Discord.
Peace out.
Have a good night, guys.